this is maybe a conversation about what restricted free agency has turned into, and it just kind of screws guys that aren't like obvious, like really max candidates. Like it just kind of really leverages you in an uncomfortable way. I just don't understand how he hasn't like found a home or at least gotten some kind of resolution, because I think he's a guy who is good. He's still 24, will be 25 next season. You're going to get him for a couple of years. He's got a very modern skill set. Can shoot it at least well enough where I think teams respect it. Last year was the worst shooting year of his career, but he's still at like 35% on threes. Like, I just like this player, and I don't understand how he's still just kind of sitting on in purgatory a little bit here.
It's another bad thing for the Hornets. The Miles Bridges situation, somewhat out of their control at the beginning, and now under their control with continuing to try to negotiate and figure out if they can keep him, and then, drafting questionably, to say the least. This year, we'll see. I don't want to just downplay Brandon Miller before he ever gets a chance to play well or look good or anything. I do think he fits their team, but he did not look great in Summer League, and there's a lot of questions about why they made that pick, and the GM couldn't even answer the question of why they made that pick. And now this, I think PJ Washington is tailor-made for the modern NBA. I think he could go to a championship team and be a rotation player immediately and be one of those guys we look at and it's just like, what the hell were the Hornets doing? And if they let him get away, it's just a complete mess up of managing an asset. It feels like a situation where if a team actually tried to give him an offer sheet, like I've thought of Dallas with what they did for Thibault, maybe even a little higher than that. They have most of their mid-level available.
Well, he can play offense, and Thibault can't really play offense. So
exactly. So maybe they go 10 starting salary for him. But what I was going to say is I think Charlotte just matches that. But it's like, if you're going to match it anyway, then just do the deal. Like, this is how you ruin relationships with players, and he's a good player. This is not some guy who still needs to prove something. He has been productive and good in the NBA. So why would you jeopardize anything with that when you don't even – it's not like you're over the tax. It's just the most obvious thing in the world to bring him back. Apparently, he wants 4 years, $80 million. Would you give him that?
Yeah, and look, so like this is where I was going to go with this. Jake Fisher had a really good story detailing a lot of this week before, whatever that was. Time is fake to me right now. And after the Isaiah Stewart extension, and this is an exact. I just pulled up the story. This is the exact wording from the story. Quote, Washington has not drawn an offer from the Hornets that reaches Stewart's salary figure, sources said, of $16 million per season. He's a better player than Isaiah Stewart, who I like. I don't think Isaiah Stewart's like a bad player, but PJ Washington is worth that, if not more. And look, I understand from like an organizational perspective, you're selling the team, and there's probably some financial complications to that. You're like, okay, we have to be really judicious about our money here, and we just give LaMelo all this money and whatever. And I understand, like, the most he could get on a mid-level forward deal is 4 for $50, which is far away from what he wants. And maybe there's not a sign and trade at this point. And again, I think restricted free agency is really screwing guys that aren't obvious max guys. But this is a player that is worth more than 16 a year. And if I were him, and this has been reported, take the qualifying at 8.5, and at least have more freedom a year from now and bet on yourself a little bit. I think if in this situation, that's not an unrealistic thing for do. And if Charlotte doesn't want to play ball in that case, and just do it and go somewhere else, then maybe it's going to value a little bit more a year from now.
Yeah, that's a big risk. I hear you. I think more guys should try to do that, but I do think that's a little bit easier. Like, I always feel bad trying to tell somebody you're stranding yourself. You're taking 1 year deal and then hitting unrestricted free agency. He was healthy this past year, but he's dealt with injuries dating back to college, and I mean, Miles Bridges is doing that, for different reasons, but to just do it to kind of send an FU to the franchise is a rarity. But the thing is, case, like,
maybe worth it.
Might be worth it. I mean, he is good enough that if he's even close to full health, he will get a pretty significant offer next year, I would think. And again, perfect for a great team, and that's a great position to be in if you're PJ Washington, right? You're a coveted player type. You're productive. You're proven. You're hitting your prime. You're everything that a team should want. The Charlotte Hornets are just too stupid to see that. I don't know. I mean, I get this is how some of this stuff happens, and maybe he does just end up back there, and it's not that big of a deal. But the fact that he even hit restricted free agency in the first place isn't great. This is a guy who could have gotten an extension, and now we're to the second part of what's supposed to be, the team and the player kind of coming together on it. So I mean, I would prefer to see him on a better team. I think the Hornets are one of the most confusingly run organizations out there, and I just want everybody good to get to leave because it does not seem pleasant to play there. Put him on Dallas, put him somewhere, and he'll be good. Could be a sign and trade, could be an offer sheet, whatever. I just want to see it.